Welcome to Mediocre Gaming, and today we're playing Dredge. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Zarel. Let's get to it. So today we're continuing on our mission, and before we get to that, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell to be notified of all future episodes as soon as they go live. So let's get into it. Captain's Log, Day 57. It's been almost 2 months since I've crashed ashore in Greater Marrow, and I have yet to unfold the mysteries that is Dredge. Alright, so we have continued to dredge and fish and find out what we can. Now, I'll say this, the more that I play, the more I kind of understand what you can do, what you should do, etc. So, in the beginning, you're greatly limited in what you can do by the rods that you start off with. And then as you go into it, as you go to different areas, and you start finding things and doing things, then all of a sudden there are more and more options that become available to you, whether it is more cargo hold capacity or different rods, etc. Everything kind of adds onto everything else. So as you're doing one thing, it actually helps you in multiple aspects. So in the beginning, you might only be able to, fish 2 or 3 fishing holes before night comes up, and then, they say, hey, you better get back to the dock before night falls. So you're like, ooh, well, maybe I should do that. But early on, all of a sudden they tell you, oh, hey, if you can get these fish, and by the way, they only come out at night. Now we're going to move stuff from the cargo hold to storage, because that's accessible anywhere. And even if the hull gets damaged, we don't have to worry about it in the storage. So dredging, really, really important for upgrading or getting upgrades for your boat. And then you also need those upgrade materials, which we're looking at right now. You've got the rods, the engines, the crab pots, the nets, all those things you need. So at the beginning, you're just like overwhelmed. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all the possibilities and like, man, I need this rod, but I also need this engine, but I also need. So it's easy to get overwhelmed about what you should do first. And all the while, there are these little side trips, side missions, pursuits, whatever you want to call them, that can reward you at the same time. Always keep a lookout ahead, but when night comes, you're going to want to keep your eyes on a swivel, not only where you're going, but seeing who's following you, who or what. And also, the night likes to play little tricks on you. You'll notice that rocks will show up out of nowhere once they get inside of your field of light. The light all of a sudden makes it known the dangers of the dark and fog, since the fog rolls in promptly every evening just after sundown. And you get, in this game, it's nice that you get 12 hours of night and 12 hours of day. Pretty much regardless of where you're at in the map. And you can go anywhere you want. It doesn't matter. Man, I remember early on, the fishmonger closed up shop, and I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? And that kind of pushed me out into another region. Before I was really ready, but that was kind of necessary. Alright, so once we get all of our come back with a bunch of dredging opportunities, I always see what I can put towards upgrades, and I finished that one. That's awesome. And I can pay for it. Now, a new hole, and of course, you need a whole lot. We need 3 refined metal for this last hole. And refined metal, of course, is very difficult to come by. You can buy it, but you don't have to. If you know where to look for it, usually you need, you have some like cove that has a obstruction that you have to blow up, and then you get in there and then you can get it. But if you're flush with cash, you can always go to the traveling merchant. Yeah, look at that. We've got pretty much everything except for wood and refined metal. So anyway, as I've been going along, I've kind of realized some things that you're going to want to do as you begin. So if you're just starting your dredge journey, you're going to want to keep your eyes open for those dredging opportunities. Once it's available for you, you're going to want to get the fish where you can, learn what fish are more valuable, and get those. But sometimes it's not about the value, it's just about getting something to add. Don't stay out past dark unless you need to, and when you do, make sure that you're resting to alleviate that anxiety, or I might start calling it the third eye, right there in the top middle, that shows you right below the time when you start getting nervous or anxious or whatever the case may be. It starts to open up, and the more rapidly it looks around, the more trouble you're in. Alright, so when you start your journey, you're going to want to do those things, but you're also going to be coming across things like fish shrines, and you're going to want to complete those as early as you can. Some of them are more difficult than others, but as soon as you get a fish, most of them, I think all of them, require multiple fish. But as soon as you put it in the shrine, it'll stay preserved until you finish it, which is good. So some are more difficult than others, but all of them are worth doing. And like I said, as early as possible, because they give you rewards that are worthwhile, especially earlier in the game. If you wait till the end, it may not be as worthwhile. So that's certainly up to you whether or not you do that. Alright, so we're trying to fill out this cargo hold, and I think we're going to do it. We got one more that we can get. There we go. We got it. Now we can go back and sell it for, well, however much that we're able to get for it, which is probably not very much. But at the same time, we're going over here and trying to get to another spot. One of the things that you'll notice is using the abilities that you gain throughout the game causes that third eye to open. There we go. Look at that. Get some cash influx. Now you'll notice that certain regions are more or less likely to give you fish that are worth more, but you need certain specialty reels because you have the disturbed water, you have the coastal water, you have the oceanic water. Those are the three main types, but then you have the hodl, you've got the abyssal, you've got the mangroves, and you got volcanic. So in order to be able to fish in any section, you're going to need at least 2 rods. You know, I see those spouts, and every time they get me, I'm like, oh, what kind of fish is there? Oh, it's a water spout. Run, run. So doing the side quests will give you good rewards, and the earlier you do it, the more or the better the reward is going to be to you. As you go along and you get upgrades and you unlock different items within the shops of the traveling merchant or the shipyard, all of a sudden it's not worth as much. It may still be worthwhile, and there's at least one reward from the fish shrines that no matter when you get it will be worthwhile. But as you go along and as you upgrade your ship, both with, you know, better lights and better engines and better rods, etc., everything starts to, you know, improve your overall experience, like how fast you can reel in different types of fish, how fast you can get from one point to another, whether or not you use haste, and being able to fish in certain areas that you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Like the research station, after you do a couple things for her, the researcher, she gives you a rod that will give you the ability to fish in Haddle? Abyssal, I think. And it's funny because you don't need that, you need the other one. So if she gives you Abyssal, you need Haddle, and if you need Haddle, it's Abyssal. And so then it's okay, but it's not great because you really need something else. Alright, and this crab pot is just about had it, but I don't know that I have room for it. Nice thing is you never have to worry about where you put your crab pots. There's always a marker on the map. And with some of the quality of life improvements that they've made with the game, you can zoom in on the map and you can put in waypoints to make it all worthwhile. Now, if you want a challenge, you can go through and you can never sleep. Never sleep. And that is a survival challenge. Yeah, so I figured out that those suckers take up a lot of space and they are not worth hardly anything. So it's good to get it one time and that's it. As the third eye opens and starts frantically looking around, you won't just be harried at night, it'll also carry over during the day. So that's why sleeping is important. Alright, so we need to do that in order to keep the monster of the deep at bay. And then, okay, so here we go, Hodl. So you need Hodl, and the the researcher gives you one that only does abyssal, which, I mean, if you didn't have one, which I assume you don't, it's good. But she also asks you to pick up fish that are from only Haddle areas, which is ridiculous. Why would you give me something that can't fish in those areas? So when you get to the Stellar Basin, you're going to want to get a rod that will do Haddle minimally. And if you're at a point where you have one that does oceanic, Haddle, and abyssal, which is further down the research line, then that would be great. But it also takes up space. So depending on where you're at in your upgrades, that'll make a difference too. Yeah. Getting better rods also mean that your fishing efficiency goes up, which means that you're not taking as much time for each fish that you catch. So you're using your time more efficiently. So going and exploring the world of Dredge is actually really important, so that you can uncover these side quests, these pursuits that give you rewards. Using the spyglass is really nice because you can look and see different fishing spots and what fish are there. Now, if you've never caught one before, it'll just have like a question mark with the outline of the fish. But even then, you say, "Oh, well, I've never caught one of these before, so I can catch it and then add that to the encyclopedia." All right. Haste is really important to have once you get it, because it gives you that little boost of speed to get you around the map that you wouldn't otherwise have. So, you know, that's a good sale of fish. We're getting a decent amount of money in reserve, but you know, don't let that lull you into a false sense of security, because at the end of the day, you know, you need thousands and thousands of dollars in order to get the different hull upgrades and you know, boat upgrades in general, plus getting the best rods, engines, etc. You know, and for a long time, I did not have this sign of ruin installed, and you really should, because that helps you get the aberrant fish, or you're more likely to get aberrant fish, I should say. Just like getting books. Some of the pursuits end with you getting a book, which is kind of a delayed gratification, because it's like, oh, that'll give me some sort of perk, and it's great. But you have to set it up that you're reading it. And at first I thought you had to be somewhere and only doing that, which is not the case. You just set it up and say, hey, I'm going to read this. So while you're doing other things, you're also kind of flipping through the pages at the same time. So you can kind of look and read it. And then once you have it read, then you get a perk associated with that. And you can look at your that section in order to see what those perks are. And those are permanent boosts. So like, you're less likely to fish out a hole. You've got more draws from any fishing hole before it's fished out, or you're able to get a little bit more engine efficiency out of your engines, so you go a little bit faster than you would otherwise. Market price is more in your favor, etc. So always good to have those books. One of the updates that they gave, there were timed events from the hooded figures, which you had to complete within a certain amount of time. Each step you had to complete in a certain amount of time, which made it difficult. Because if you're doing this blind without any help, you might be searching the map for a while before you figure out where the thing is that they're wanting you to pick up. It's like, okay, where is this thing that they want me to get? And it may take you longer than what the time allowed. So they changed that, so it's no longer timed. As long as you finish it, you get the reward, which is good. I'm glad that they made that change. People playing a little bit more casually are able to get those books that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten. So most of the pursuits you can complete as you want, but the hooded ones used to be you had a certain time limit, even though it didn't really say, and then if you didn't get the big prize. But that's been changed, so now it's not timed. It's just like all the others. All right. And if you're going for the docking at all the docks, know that there are some docks that are not on the map that you have to explore around to find. I saw pretty early on that there was a challenge for docking at every single port. And I was like, oh, well, that's easy because all the ports are on the map. Well, they're not on the map. The main ports are on the map, and then there's some others that are kind of hidden around the map that you have to figure out. All right. One of the nice things about dredging is that you always know what you're going after. Like, oh, this is supposed to be a trinket. So you get a trinket out of it. You go to another one. So if you're going for the challenge for selling a certain number of trinkets, then you're going to try and dredge up those trinkets. The other ones, they're materials and maybe an upgrade. All right, you can see the third eye is open and looking around, but not frantically. So it's not terrible, but it's not great. Ooh, and just like that. Hull got damaged. There we go. And then we'll move that to storage and then repair the ship, which you never... I always think, man, I would have had that extra money if I didn't have to repair the ship. That's one of the other things. As your ship gets a little bit faster, you want to make sure that you have the best light possible, so that whenever you're out at night, you're not running into things needlessly. Of course, when you get new engines, there's a little breaking in period where you have to adjust how you boat around, navigate the waters. Yeah, I need lumber badly. So as much lumber as I can get out of these dredge points, the better. Wow, look at that. Got 3. I always kind of feel like I need to hurry up and get to the port quickly because I am very lumber poor. So if I don't, I kind of run the risk of losing it to hull damage. Which is never great. These little fishing mini games are nice. But some of them aren't intuitive. So it does take a little bit of time to kind of figure it out. And if you're not real good with those quick time events, you can actually turn them off. It will take overall longer, but not as long if you're always failing. Alright, so I have all the lumber now. I just need to find or buy the refined metal to finish that off. And when you look, she always has 1 per day, but it's pricey. So it's better if you can find them rather than buy them. But you cannot buy any of the normal resources, which is unfortunate. I would have liked if she had had the ability to sell the resources, but I understand. They want you to go out and get the... Man, for a second there, I thought something was after me. You know, the visuals of the game are fantastic. You know, kind of seeing the sun rise and set. Very serene. Hearing the water lap up against the boat is very nice. If it weren't for all the dangers in the water, around the water, it'd be a very zen-like experience. And as I understand it, the developers are actually going to be adding that as an option, what they call passive mode, which will have the same experience but without the danger. So you can go out at night, you can go out during the day, it doesn't matter, and you're not going to have these dangers or things that are trying to take you out. So if you're looking for that kind of experience and you saw Dredge and you're like, you know, I like the fishing aspect, but I don't like the things chasing you and trying to take you out, then, you know, the developers have heard you and they're working on it. Aha, look at that. There's another hidden dock. And every time you can search around somewhere, it's always important or you know, a good idea to look around, because you can usually find something. Alright, so we got everything that we can, and then you say, well, messages kind of fill in some of the backstory of the game, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense when you're getting them, because most if not all of them have dates on them, so you can see them in order by date. but not necessarily know who they are about and who they are for, although presumably they're for you. Alright, cloth. We've got a decent amount of cloth, but I know once we have the whole upgrade, we're going to need more. So I just keep getting more resources until I start running out of room, and then I say, okay, maybe maybe I don't need these resources that I already have a whole ton of. And then we'll figure out what we actually need. Now, if we can slowly make our way out without damaging the boat. Because it doesn't take much to damage the boat. In the beginning, I often wondered. I was like, well, how hard do you have to be going at full speed to damage the boat? No, you do not. You can sometimes feel like you just tapped a rock or something, and all of a sudden you're like, what the heck, it's damaged. These suckers take up a lot of room. And that's all that. I know there's alright, so we're in the volcanic area. I think we've got the volcanic fishing rod. Let's see. Yes. So you can see kind of on the right hand side where you can fish. I can fish everywhere except oceanic. Yeah, you can send it direct to the storage locker, but it may not be optimizing space. So it's up to you what you want to do. Alright, so I think that's the last piece that I need, if I remember correctly. We'll go to the hole. There we go, and now... Yes. We've got the final hull upgrade. Now we just need the rest of the upgrades here. Start with the light, because light, of course, is very important. We need, of course, lumber, which we don't have. Of course, we also need money, so... here we go. Yeah, every hull upgrade gives you a little more robustness in the hull, so you can take more damage. At first, it's only 3 X's, and some damage automatically gives you 2, which is fantastic. Not so much, but... Alright, so it looks like we've got plenty of cloth. We'll see. Wow, that's just metal and lumber. Just looking at what each one gives you. 1 slot. 1 extra slot for light, but obviously it's necessary if you want to pierce through the gloom of the fog. Get a little bit more cargo space, which is good. Your boat looks a little bit different, which is always nice. You're like, I put in all these upgrades. Don't I get something that looks a little bit better? Ah, look at that. So that gives a decent bump to the light. So we should probably go ahead and get rid of that. And then get that one and install it. There we go. So that gives us a little bit more light. Always important. And yeah, got something in the encyclopedia, and there we go. The mangrove, although you can do any section whenever you want, look at that sunset. The mangrove and volcanic areas are the most dangerous, I think. Also, like I said, if you don't have the reel to do volcanic and mangrove, there's not really much of a reason to go there. So, unfortunately, you don't have the ability to have a trawl net and reel for every situation. I kind of felt like there should have been a rod that would let me fish any situation, and then I could have that plus like the fishing platform, which is the best, most expensive upgrade. I kind of felt like that one should have been, you know, all 7 different areas so that I could fish wherever I want. And that would take up one side of the fishing boat. And then the other side, I can have the trawl net. And the best trawl net, whatever it you know, the reinforced trawl net or whatever it is, the best one should be able to trawl any section as well. Because crab pots, you can put the crab pots anywhere and they'll work as long as you put it at the right depth for what you want to grab. Yeah, obviously third eye is open and searching, so that's why you see a little bit more this night than most nights. And we're getting close to morning. So been out all day and all night. And that's something you want to be careful of, because what will happen is, like I said, you have dangers during the night, but when that third eye is open, like it is right now, and frantically searching, all of a sudden you start having dangers during the day as well, so that you don't have any safe time. So certainly you want to make sure that you have safety at some point. Oh, look at that. Yeah, because even with all the abilities, they're not going to be able to save you all of the time. So quickly get to the port, and then we're going to have to rest during the day, I think. One of the interesting things about this game is that it keeps track of how many days you've been doing this. So starting with day number 1 and then going on, and even though we did rest a little bit, that eye is still open, but not as frantic as it was before. Alright, so looking at the map, we're over in the mangrove section now. And visually seeing the danger is one thing, but you can also hear the danger. There'll be little cues either in sound effects or the music where you're like, wait, what's going on? And you stop and look around and see what's going on. Sometimes stopping will save you. Other times stopping is going to cause you to fail or, to get hit. And like I said, there's some times when you get 2 X's on a hit versus if it's a denizen of the deep that's coming after you, that's usually two hits. There we go, trophy fish. But if you run into like a rock, then that's something different. Now the mangrove is also a little bit more difficult because it is more of a maze. So when you look at the map, you can be like, okay, I want to go over here. How do I get there? And you kind of look around, and then you have to go a little bit, and then you come back. Ooh, look at that. That guy popped up from the water. He's looking around. We're just going to stay still. There, he disappeared. So we should be good. That looks like lumber. We're extremely lumber poor, but we also need metal. Man, and just like that, we got 1. So let's keep going and keep dredging up some goodies. So you almost need a 3-pronged approach. You need to dredge once you have the ability to get the resources so you can improve your boat, so you can get better upgrades and have more cargo space. You also need to dredge, or excuse me, you need to fish because you need to have cash to buy the upgraded, not just the upgrades, but also the upgraded rods and engines and whatnot, crab pots and trawler nets and lights. Additionally, or thirdly, you need to go and explore around the map so you can uncover the mysteries. You can get the side quests, the pursuits that'll also give you rewards, whether it is a research point or materials or a book or some exotic rod or reel or engine or light or what have you. So all those things. And then of course at the very base you're also trying to complete the main pursuits that will give you, or you'll find the relics. Because the relics, when you turn them in, all of a sudden you get upgrades for your boat. So you get the haste, you get the banish, you get the manifest. Things that are very, very useful, even though they open up that third eye during the use. Alright, so I don't think we need any more refined metal, which is good because that's really expensive. We've got trawl nets, but I'm kind of adverse to getting a trawl net because then that limits where I can fish. I had gotten a trawl net and had one installed, but then uninstalled it so that I could put in a rod so I could fish where I needed to in the huddle areas. So trying to get the fish to complete your encyclopedia, that's kind of important. So trawling kind of takes a back seat for a good part of the game, I would say, as a result. Like, I don't want to go, oh, there's one of those things. Brains. There we go. Now, on the plus side, no time goes by when we're just sitting there, so that's nice. Alright. Just traveling through. I do see another dock or port up here. Yep, there's something to blow up. And slowly but surely, do we go through there? Feel like, all of a sudden you go through there and then it traps you. Takes out your boat by going underneath it. It's like, maybe? Yeah, I'm thinking about going back so I can get an explosive charge. Use haste in case one of those brain suckers come up. There we go. Early on, you don't want to go back because you're like, man, I spent so much time, because your engines are garbage in the beginning. And you're like, man, it took me so much time to get out here, I don't want to go back until I have to. Oop. Sucker's back again. We got a lot closer this time around. It's like a T-Rex. It only senses movement. Alright, so slowly but surely make our way back there. The faster your engines, of course, then you also have to be a little wary about how fast you're going through the different areas so you don't crack into everything. There we go. Another message in a bottle. Like I said, these kind of help flesh out kind of the backstory, even if it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Especially when you get the first couple, because you're like, because you're not likely to get them in order. Yeah, it's alright if you find yourself looking at the map a lot. Especially in the beginning for the mangrove area, because that's just really, really tough. With all the twists and turns that are around here. So we'll explore through the mangroves a little bit, see if we can catch some new fish or dredge some more resources. But I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check us out on social media, and thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And we'll see you next time.
プレイステーション